Hello and welcome to Celtic Down Under. My name is Laura and I'm joined by Liam as we kick off the World Cup preview of Group E. And where better place to start than with Germany, as you can tell by that beautiful top Liam's wearing. Liam, give us a little bit of a summary of that top.
This is Germany's ninth. Well, sorry, I should say West Germany's jersey
Yes.
from 1988 to 1990. Um, Not to be confused with the very similar one they wore at the Italia '90 World Cup, which was the same pattern but a slightly darker tone. Um, this is one of my favourites.
It's a beautiful, beautiful top, not least because it is obviously green and white. But I have to say, you've given me a bit of an education there because in my ignorance, I suspected it was 1990. But there you go. That's the difference between a non-shirt collector and a shirt collector.
No, but the thing is, they are near identical. It's just that the
Mm-hmm.
1990 one, if you see photos of it, it is more of a bottle green, whereas this is more of a lime green.
Mm-hmm.
Um, but Yeah, the thing is about Germany, just to go off on a wee tangent here,
Mm-hmm.
Germany, every World Cup without fail, I always end up buying at least one Germany top
They do
because
they do do
they
good
never
tops.
have a bad kit. They never have
Mm.
a bad kit.
Although I have to say, I usually love the Germany home kits, and this one I'm not a huge fan of with the big black stripe down the middle. I'm
Mm,
not feeling it, but I might be wrong.
the away kit is an absolute beauty, though.
Oh yes,
Yeah,
that's the red and black number.
yeah, with the gold trim.
Yeah,
You can't go
excellent,
wrong with that.
excellent. Um, I think possibly the best place to start with Germany is looking at the history of Germany at the World Cup because
Yeah,
I think uh, I'll be honest. I'm going to share this, and bearing in mind the last one of these that we looked at was, I think, Australia.
yeah.
Um, you'll struggle to find a more illustrious um group. It's almost a failure if they get knocked out at the group stage, the quarterfinals, I should say. The group
Yeah.
stage at the 2018 World Cup in Russia is actually, I think, their worst outcome in World Cup history, stretching back potentially to 1938 and to France, where they finished 10th. Every other time they've come in the top 10 at the tournament, and most of the time that has included semi-finals, finals, and obviously the four victories that they have. Um, don't know what happened in 1950. We'll not go into that, I don't think.
I'm going to assume that Germany might not have been in a position to field a particularly strong team at that point. Aye.
But looking at that, Liam, I mean, as far as World Cup pedigree goes,
Mm,
only Brazil have won more trophies.
yeah.
And interestingly enough, I was looking up just to see exactly how successful Germany were. I thought they were by clear second best, but actually Italy matched them for 4 World Cups each. But I would argue that Germany are the team that you, second to Brazil, think of when you think of the World Cup, because although Italy have won 4 tournaments, they have had many more instances like this year where they're just not at the tournament, and that's just not an option for Germany.
No, no. Yeah, Germany are they're a dependable team. Like you say, they're almost always at least a good bet for the last eight, if nothing else. Even a weaker Germany side should be looking to get well into the tournament's later stages. Um, and Yeah, I really enjoy watching Germany.
Mm-hmm.
I think one of the things I like about Germany, and this is just my petty Scottish mindset coming out, but the fact that England in their minds create this great rivalry with Germany, and Germany just do not care about them. They want to beat the Dutch. That's their
Yeah,
rivalry. You know?
yeah, it's a strange one. Do you remember much about the 2018 World Cup and what exactly happened with them? I'm struggling to remember exactly what happened there and how they managed to go out in the group stage, but
If I remember
uh,
correctly, they were beaten by Mexico.
right, which is not, there's no shame in that, I would say.
No, then they got, I think it was a draw with Sweden, but it was a last gasp draw. I believe it was Philip Lahm with a free kick in like the 4th minute of injury time or something like that.
Uh huh.
And then they lost 2-0 to South Korea, which, bad for Germany, but very, very good for Mexican-Korean diplomatic relations.
Yeah. It's just, but it just shows you, doesn't it, the nature of World Cup football, and makes actually their history there, as you see it, all the more impressive. That it really doesn't take much for a team to go out at the group stage. So for them to have appeared so frequently in third place, second place, and as champions is just absolutely unbelievable.
Because the thing is, apart from winning the World Cup 4 times, if you look at, like, if you're like me and you like to get into the World Cup by watching all these old historical videos, whatever, the amount of times that the great team that wins the tournament, they beat Germany in the final. Argentina in '86, Brazil 2002, England in '66. It's amazing how often Germany, even if they are not the story of that tournament, they end up playing a fundamental part in it by being the second best team there.
Yeah, it's funny that you say that, because I would argue 2014 when they won, they were not the fancied champions going into the tournament. I would argue they were not the team that everybody thought would be the one taking home the trophy. And then I think it really was that famous 7-1 victory over Brazil in the semi-final, the likes of which I've never seen in a football tournament before in my life. But it was only then that you kind of went, wow, like, it's really going to take something special to beat this team, and obviously nobody did.
One of the funniest moments about that, apart from seeing Neymar cry, obviously, was I remember a certain adult video streaming site put out a tweet saying, Can we just ask our users, please stop uploading videos of the Germany-Brazil match? Our public humiliation category is already full.
Honestly, I've never seen anything like it. I've never seen anything like that game. My abiding memory is David Luiz running about like a headless chicken, trying to do anything he could to stop what was happening. I've never seen a professional football team, much less Brazil on their own soil, collapse like that. And not to use stereotypes, but the ruthless efficiency of Germany on that night to just go, I think they were 5-0 up within half an hour or something like that. It was crazy.
Because the thing is, at the end, it finished 7-1 because for about the last 20 minutes, Germany quite visibly eased off.
It
was like, stop it, he's already dead. Yeah.
Oh, no, listen, if they had kept going with the pace and ferocity that they did for the first half an hour, you would have easily been talking about double figures.
If that was a group stage game and Germany needed to score 10 to go through, they would have done that night.
Yeah. Absolutely unreal. Let's look at their qualifying for this World Cup to bring it back to the present day. They, as you would expect with them, they pretty much romped the group. They were, 9 points ahead of second place North Macedonia. But looking at the quality of that group, you would expect nothing less from Germany. They've not really been tested there, you would argue.
No, I mean, not North Macedonia are quite clearly the standout second best team in that group, and yet there were absolute ructions when they got a shock win over Germany. It was the German press did not take that well, despite the fact that North Macedonia, they went on to beat Italy in the playoffs, so they showed that they are capable of that, of those kind of shock results. But yeah, it's Germany doing what Germany does best, and they dealt with that group professionally, and they qualified quite easily in the end.
Yeah, absolutely. They're a team who have undergone a lot of change in the last 20 years with the. For anybody who's not read it, Raphael Honigstein wrote a fantastic book called Das Reboot that talks about the rebuilding of German football from the ground up following the 5-1 defeat to England, and how seriously Germany took that, and it led directly to some people's minds to that World Cup victory in 2014. With that in mind, do you think, is this, I know it's a long time since 2014, but have Germany, have they rebuilt themselves to an extent that you think they're going to continue the dynasty that they have at World Cups, obviously 2018 aside?
Yeah, I mean, again, it's a cliche to say it, but I do think 2018 was a blip.
Yeah.
I think that Germany are a resurgent team now. They're really starting to bring it together. We are now back to the days when German players are being discussed amongst like the top players in the world. You know.
And I think that's actually a very, very fair point, and it leads us on nicely to looking at the squad itself. Looking at the goalkeepers alone, that's probably the best 3 goalkeepers in any squad at the tournament, I would say, in terms of the strength of choice you've got across the 3 positions. Most of the other squads I've looked at have a clear first choice, and don't get me wrong, the clear first choice remains Manuel Neuer there, but it's not going to be any kind of a reduction in quality if Marc-Andre ter Stegen or Kevin Trapp comes in between the sticks should anything happen to Manuel Neuer during this tournament.
No, well, as we well know, if it ends up going to a penalty shootout, Kevin Trapp likes a penalty save, So I think
again, who did he save a penalty against? I can't.
Some wee 10-year-old club. What were they called again?
I can't remember. What would have been hilarious is if he saved that penalty. It would have been hilarious if he saved that penalty off the man who was brought into that wee Diddy club to win fixtures like that, the big star signing. That would have been hilarious.
What's that team's name? It starts with an R and it ends with liquidation.
That's right. Yeah. So we've looked at the goalkeepers there. We'll move on to the defenders. I mean, looking at that, you've got Antonio Rudiger, who we've come across this season playing for Real Madrid, but formerly of Chelsea. Nobody needs to talk about his quality. You've got Matthias Ginter, Thilo Kehrer, Niklas Süle, Bela Kotchap, Schlotterbeck, Klostermann, Gunter, and Raum. Not the most high-profile Germany backline that I've ever seen going to a World Cup. A lot of names there that, if you're not particularly into German football, you might not be aware of, but all playing at a very high level by looking at the clubs.
Yeah, but going the other way, if you do watch the Bundesliga, you know that every one of those guys is a class act.
Yeah.
And that's the thing. That is where I think Germany have kind of flown under the radar for a lot of people. Rudiger is a standout, obviously, because he plays for Real Madrid. But that, personally, I think the best defender they have at the moment is Klostermann, who, we saw up close for Leipzig this season, obviously. But I really think that it's a good, solid team. And it speaks to the increase in quality of German football generally, that you now have players at teams like Freiburg and I almost said West Ham, Freiburg and Leipzig, that are able to get into the squad and hold down a place.
Yeah, no, it really is good for German football, because one thing's for certain, they would not be in the Germany squad if they weren't up to standard. So it is fantastic to see them there. Moving on to the midfield, I think this is where you'll get a lot more of the recognisable names for people watching. You've got Joshua Kimmich, a player who is, some might say the Bayern Munich team of recent years has been built around him. Jamal Musiala, who is a rising star, but my goodness, what a player he's turning out to be, and I'm really excited to see where he goes. You get Ilkay Gundogan, Manchester City, one of their perhaps most underrated players, but certainly a massive reason for Pep Guardiola's success in Manchester. A personal favourite of mine is Leon Goretzka, who plays for Bayern Munich. One of those players who underwent a transformation both in physical and mental stature getting to Bayern Munich. Julian Brandt, his qualities obvious at Dortmund. Jonas Hoffmann of Borussia Mönchengladbach, and a surprise return to the Germany squad for World Cup winner and World Cup final scorer Mario Götze of Eintracht Frankfurt. Before we talk about the quality of the team, that return for Mario Götze is absolutely unreal. Have you read anything about that?
I haven't actually read the full story behind it, but yeah, that is incredible to think that he's back in there because, you know, as recently as a year ago, he was so far out the picture.
So basically, as far as I'm aware from what I read, he hasn't appeared for Germany in any guise since I think a friendly against France in 2017. And you know, his career has derailed massively since then. I think he underwent a number of investigations for a health condition, the nature of which I don't think has ever been shared, but one that was certainly keeping him from playing football. He bounced back and forth between Dortmund and Bayern Munich for a while before both were unable to help him any further. And I think he'd be forgiven for thinking his international career was over at this point. But to see him back in there, just from a nostalgia point of view, is fantastic.
Yeah, everybody loves a good comeback story, and yeah, Mario Götze is definitely one to watch.
Who's your outstanding player there, or any players you're excited to see from the rest of that midfield lineup?
Well, the thing is, I rate Gundogan of Man City, although he's very few Man City fans pick him as their favourite player, but he is one of their most effective players.
Yeah.
I always if I'm ever watching Man City and I'm having a wee bet, I always take him to score the first goal because I know he's usually on the penalties and he likes a free kick as well. So it's yeah, I think he's a good one. And but in terms of players that we might be less familiar with, the boy Hoffmann from Mönchengladbach is one that followers of German football will know is a very, very tidy player, but one that perhaps might, if Germany have as good a World Cup as we think they might, he could be one that's looking at a big money move to perhaps England, Spain, or Italy after the tournament.
Yeah, it'll be interesting to see, that's for sure. Before we go on to look at the fixtures, let's just round out our review of the Germany front line. This is where a lot of the star names really come out. You've got Kai Havertz at Chelsea, Serge Gnabry and Thomas Muller and Leroy Sané, all of Bayern Munich. You've got Karim Adeyemi of Borussia Dortmund and Youssoufa Moukoko of Dortmund as well, and Nicholas Füllkrug of Werder Bremen. The standout name there for me, nobody needs to overstate the quality of Havertz, Gnabry, Muller, Sané. But Youssoufa Moukoko of Borussia Dortmund is yet another rising star coming out of the black and yellow, and could potentially be the breakout star of the World Cup for Germany. Is that too much pressure to put on his shoulders, do you think?
No, I mean, at the end of the day, if you can do it for a team as massive as Dortmund, you can do it for Germany. And I think this is going to be the World Cup where he emerges onto the world stage. He's already a star on the European stage. I think this is where he makes his bow on the world stage. But for me, the main man is Sané. I think you just look at how.
Right. Let's just, because we are already running over a little bit. Listen, sometimes it's hard to cover 20 minutes for some teams, and then sometimes it's hard to cram in to 20 minutes for other teams. Let's do a little look at the group fixtures for Germany. Let's just see here. And we have them here. They're opening against Japan. They've then got Spain in the middle, and then they've got Costa Rica. I've got to say, Spain could cause them a problem, but the Spain team that are going to this World Cup, as we'll get into in their video, are not the Spain team of old. I don't see Germany getting caused many problems by any of these teams, or is that me being a bit disrespectful?
No, I think Germany are going to win the group, and as somebody who wants Japan to get through, their best chance is for Spain to underperform. And there is rumours of a lot of, fractious behaviour in the Spain camp at the moment. So, that's something we'll talk about a bit more when we get on to talking about Spain. But I think there is the potential there that, Spain could possibly flop. And if they do, that opens the gap for Japan. But I think Germany are the group winners of this unquestionably.
Yeah, absolutely. Bearing in mind that that's the case, how far do you see them going in the rest of the tournament? Because I don't know if it's something to do with the early exit at 2018, but they're not a team that I hear many people mentioning in terms of potential winners of the tournament, regardless of their pedigree.
No, and the thing is, they are capable of winning the tournament. This World Cup might have come just a wee bit too early for some of these emerging talents. I think the next World Cup is when you're going to have a lot of these players really hitting their peak. But in saying that, I think semi-finals, possibly the final. I think they will go deep into the tournament's latter stages.
Yeah, I think that's fair to say. Certainly, anybody who's got them in a sweepstake will not be disappointed to have pulled them out the hat, regardless of whether you think their chances of actually taking the trophy home for a fifth time are legitimate or not. Liam, thank you so much for joining me for this opener to Group E. We're getting through them fast and thick now, and the World Cup is approaching. I'm really enjoying doing these with you, and I think it's going to be really good in terms of our viewing enjoyment of the World Cup that we've had a chance to do this.
Yep, absolutely. Can't wait.
Can't wait. And bearing that in mind, join us next time as we go on to the next team in Group E, Spain, for review. Thanks everybody for joining us, and we'll see you again very soon.
See you soon.